Welcome everyone. We're gonna start over. I thought I was streaming earlier and I guess it got stuck, so nothing got uploaded. So we're gonna start over. Bear with me, guys. So right now, guys, the topic is has the church replaced um, Israel, or is Israel the true? Is the church the true Israel? And that's the main topic. That's what we want to discuss today, right? We're gonna let Rabbi Tovia go ahead and get a little bit more into his stance on this topic, but let's listen. Okay, well, we'll stop right there. As of right now, his point is that the Orthodox Church has um undergone through several attacks against the Jewish people, right? That's what Rabbi Tovia is mentioning right now. But what Rabbi Tovia does not mention is that not only did the Orthodox Church or the Roman Catholic Church attack all of those who would not align with them, including other Christians and others who just not adhere to any other religion that was new to them. For instance, the Americas. The Americas experienced a massacre and a genocide greater than the genocide that Jews experienced in Europe during Hitler's reign. The numbers were greater. There was more death in the Americas. It's estimated that the amount of Native Americans that died during that conquest and genocide was over 16, 17, 18 million people. And when we look at that number, hardly anybody knows it, hardly anybody discusses it. But I want Rabbi Tovia to go ahead and address that. It's not just the Jewish people that were attacked by the Orthodox and by the Roman Catholic Church. It was basically the whole world that would not align with them. It was the Muslims who were not aligned with the Roman Catholic Church. It was everybody. Now, when he says that we try to distance ourselves, and I take it as if he's speaking about me, not because I'm a missionary or because I have my church right next down the street from where he's claiming. I don't. But the word Christian is something that we, in our faith, consider to be identifiable with our faith. So yes, when he does talk about Christians, I do feel like he's talking about all of us. And he does. He clarifies and he says, it's not just the Catholics, it's also the Protestants, it's also the Evangelists, it's also the Mormons and the Jehovah's Witnesses, all of them. He includes everybody into the Christian faith. Ironically, when you do that to a Jew, when you do that to him, oh no, right? We're wrong by putting them all in the same bowl, right? In the same cup. Oh no, he's not the same, right? Like the guy down the street who's preaching completely the opposite of what he's preaching. He won't tell you that, right? Which brings me to our point about Israel. In the 1947 to 1949, when Israel was being formed as a country, once again, was it only Jewish believing Israelites who returned to Israel? That's a question for you, Rabbi Tovia. I'm asking you directly. I'm asking you straight to your eyes. Was it only Jewish believing Israelites that returned to Israel? Point blank. So, one of the things I was discussing before in the previous video that I was recording, which obviously didn't record, was you can have a Jewish atheist, a Jewish Hindu, a Jewish Christian. You could have a Jewish atheist, or I don't know if I said that already, but you could have, you're a Jew. You don't have to practice Judaism. You could be a Jew, right? Anybody could be a Jew. According to the website that we saw, right? Shabbat. If your mother was a Jew, you're a Jew. And you can't be disowned as a Jew from the Jewish faith, not even by God. So that's important to them, right? Because they will claim that they are Jews eternally. They're always a Jew. Now, the problem with this is that the promise that was made to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob is a promise that is 100% being fulfilled. 100%. God did not fail. God has not changed his plan. That's his plan. To bless the nations through Abraham. That was his plan. Now, does Rabbi Tovia have a problem with that when we say that God has fulfilled his plan throughout these 2,000 years in Christ? He has an absolutely horrible time accepting that God performed this through Christ. He breaks down. He went ballistic last time on his last few videos. He loses his mind. How could God, with all his power, with all his might, with all his mercy, find another people that he could call his own when we're Jews and we have been in rebellion for 2,000 years or even longer than that, but nonetheless, we are still Jews. How could God replace us? Now, it's not that easy, Tovia. It's not like God just chose the Asians or the Americans or the Native Americans or the Europeans or someone else, Africans. He didn't just choose someone else to replace you guys. The fact of the matter is that Jesus was a Jew, the disciples were Jews, and a great number of the first converts to Christianity were Jews. In the thousands, maybe even hundreds of thousands, were of the Jewish faith and became believers in the Messiah. Now, when it comes to the Roman Catholic Church and the Orthodox Church, this man, I don't know who exactly that was, Rabbi Tovia will give us his name, but when this man makes a claim about Justin Martyr claiming that Israel, the Jewish faith has ended, I do think they go a little bit overboard. It's not that clear cut like that either. Jesus himself told us that we should listen to the Pharisees because they sit in Moses' seat. So Judaism does have a place still for eternity, actually, right? The sacrifices for them, as long as they're adhering to God's laws, they're still valid. I mean, or you're going to tell me that they're valid, Tovia. If someone goes out and murders and they come the next day to sacrifice as a priest, are they still valid? They could go rape kids and they could go rape women and then come back the next day and go to the Sabbath and still be clean? Let's be real with each other. Come on. What we're saying here is that a believing Jew who is following Torah the right way can still sacrifice and can still follow not only Torah as far as the first 5 books, but I'm talking about the law that was given on Mount Sinai, the law that was given throughout the desert to Israel. Can they still practice that law? They most certainly can, if what they're doing behind doors coincides with what God is asking. But if it's them putting up a front and then going and doing something else behind closed doors, then yeah, God has a problem with that. And that's not Christians saying it. That's Isaiah saying it. That's Jeremiah saying it. That's Zechariah saying it. That's Samuel saying it straight to Saul's face. So when you come in and claim that the church is attacking you, bro, you got to read your Bible. You got to read what God said about you guys as people. Now, you guys come out here and try to claim that the church attacked you guys. The church, God allowed this to happen. Like I said, I don't approve of it. I don't say like I'm in favor of it. The only thing I can say is that it's in the Bible. It's prophesied. It was going to happen because of your guys' rebellion. You guys can't blame anybody else. You guys, okay, you guys going to blame the church. You guys are going to blame the Orthodox Church, the Roman Catholic Church. Go ahead. But at the end of the day, you guys need to hold responsibility for you guys' actions because God told you guys this would happen to you guys. So I don't think that we necessarily have to separate ourselves from those types of people that attacked the Jewish community. I don't really think that uh, we I don't think we have to. I think that it's evident, but I think that people like Rabbi Tovia will try to mix it in and cause this confusion. But I don't think that Christians are really confused about this situation. I don't even think that well, I guess the world is. The world is confused about this. I did speak to a guy earlier, and they don't seem to understand, right, the different denominations within Christianity. They don't seem to understand how one Christian could claim to be Christian and another one be a Christian, but then one's actions show that he's a Christian, another doesn't have any actions. But then there's atheists, right, who are apparently good people, but how come they're not considered good people and stuff like that. Look, for that we have to come to church and study regularly every Sabbath. We have to get together and study these different topics in order for you to understand. But you're not going to get this whole message from Rabbi Tovia in this short 15-20 minute video. Of course he's not going to discuss those things, because those things would go against his message. So will he share with you guys? Let's just say, earlier in the first video I didn't get to finish the whole video, so if we'll finish the whole video right now, will Rabbi Tovia, this is a question, will he mention the rest of the genocides that the Roman Catholic and the Orthodox Church took on? Will he mention it? Will he mention how God included the nations into his people long before Christianity? Long before Christianity even came into play. So it's not a Christian invention. This is something that God had already prophesied, that he would complete it, and he had already started, but way back then. Let's talk about the Calebs. Let's talk about the Ruths. Let's talk about Cyrus and Nebuchadnezzar. Not even to say the ones that were before Judah, right? Before Judah, who was there? Who were the faithful before Judah? Before Judah, all of those other individuals were saved. And I've said this in other videos, but Rabbi Tovia doesn't talk about the Samaritans, right? I remember once he claimed, oh, the Jewish community is the only monotheistic religion. And I asked him, I said, in one of his videos I commented, what about the Samaritans? Oh, I forgot about the Samaritans. Of course you forgot about the Samaritans, right? Because of his narrative. He's always only going to give you his narrative. And that's where you guys have to study, and you guys have to do your own due diligence, and you guys have to look up what he's saying and see if it's true or not. Now, I don't agree with whatever the Orthodox Christian is saying. I don't. There's a lot that they could be hiding. But let's go ahead and continue watching the video. Let's see what else Rabbi Tovia has to say. That's because Christianity, or being a Christian, was something that will see. And this is the thing that I think, he's a scholar. Rabbi Tovia spends hours and hours studying these topics. He's been studying it since he was a kid. He says it himself. And from my understanding, if he's a rabbi, he doesn't have a regular 9 to 5 job like I do. But a simple Google search, bro. That's all you have to do is a simple Google search would show you that indeed the word Christian was a derogatory term to the Messianic community back in the early centuries. And the Christians or the Messianic followers embraced that name, and instead of taking it as an insult, they saw it with great pride that they were suffering for Christ. So when he speaks about the Christians or Messianic believers not using those terms to preach because somehow they're going to be found out, there is some truth to that. I will say that there is certain religions. Hi, Elijah. Oh, where's your iPad? Were you charging it?
No.
You left it on the where? I don't see it. You didn't leave it in the other room?
Yes, I did.
So when okay, you found it? Good. So let's continue. Okay, well, we'll let him speak. Go ahead. Spain, remember that. Okay, so the claim is that um, in Spain during the medieval times, large amounts of Jews were converted to Christianity under threat. This is most possible. There's not that I don't have any doubts, but I just feel that this falls into place with the history that we know about Roman Catholic rule throughout those ages. So let's go ahead and search for this. Roman Catholic Church. Is it the Inquisition? Okay, the Spain Inquisition permitted the Catholic Church and its inquisitors to prosecute converted Jews suspected of heresy, but it also expanded to enforce orthodoxy by pursuing converted Muslims, alleged witches, Protestants, and other within Spain for more than 300 years. The Inquisition. Okay, let me ask a different question. Okay. Um, during the Catholic Church Inquisition, which group was the most targeted? Originally intended to maintain Catholic orthodoxy in their kingdoms, particularly targeting conversos, Jews and Muslims, who had ostensibly converted to Christianity. The Inquisition widely extensive judicial powers to root out heresy and dissent. Okay, Inquisition occurs from this time until the reporters are together and popular. The Inquisition became the name for various medieval and Reformation era state-organized tribunals whose aim was to combat heresy, apostasy, blasphemy, witchcraft, and customs considered to deviate. Using these judicial procedures, violence, isolation, certain tortures, or the threat of its application have been used by inquisitions to extract confessions and denunciations. Inquisitions with the aim of combating religious sedition, apostasy, or heresy had their start in the 12th century Kingdom of France, particularly among the Cathars and the Waldensians. Waldensians, also known as the Waldensians, Valencians, were adherents of a church tradition that began as a ascetic movement within Western Christianity before the Reformation. Originally known as the Poor Lion in the late 12th century, the movement spread to the Cottian Alps in what is today France, Italy. The founding of the Waldensians is attributed to Peter Waldo, a wealthy merchant who gave way to his poverty around 1173, preaching apostolic poverty as the way to perfection. In some aspects, the Waldensians of the Middle Ages could be seen as proto-Protestants, but they mostly did not raise the doctrinal objection characteristics of 16th century Protestant leaders. They began to align themselves with Protestantism with the Synod of Chanforan on 12 September 1532. They formally became a part of what was to become the Calvinist tradition. They are nearly annihilated in the 17th century. The Waldensians' teaching came into conflict with the Catholic Church, and by 1215 the Waldensians were declared heretical, not because they preached apostolic property, which the Franciscans also preached, but because they were not willing to recognize the prerogatives of local bishops over the content of their preaching, nor to recognize standards above the was fit to the preach. Okay. Well, here we have other groups that were attacked during that time, and the Inquisition was great. I don't really. I guess the claim that they were targeted is valid, is something that can be supported by the historical accounts. So this is something that we would not disagree with, but I still think that the Inquisition covered a larger scale, not just in Europe, but the Inquisition covered the Americas. And the amount of Native Americans that died, I don't recall if I already said it in this video or if I said it in the previous video, but let's look it up. Let's see. I said between 16 and 18 million. Let's see. How many Native Americans died during the conquest. Wow. Pre-contact Americans. Historians debate the exact number, but credible estimates range from 40 to 60 million people in the Western Hemisphere in 1492. Some scholar studies suggest higher figures, up to 100 million, but modern research often uses the 40 to 60 million range as middle ground. North America pre-contact population was smaller, with estimates for the US and Canada alone ranging from 5 to 15 million. Death toll. Apply a 90% decline to these estimates yields America as a whole 45 to 54 million deaths over roughly 150 years. North America 4 to 13 million deaths, depending on the starting population. Some studies, such as those cited in the Collector, note that up to 90% of North Americans died in 500 years after 1492, with total losses potentially reaching 56 million. Causes of death: disease, warfare, violence, forced displacement, enslavement, exploitation, environmental collapse. Conquests and massacres, raids. By the early 1600s, the indigenous population had fallen from tens of millions to just a few million, In the U.S., the population dropped from 8 million in 1492 to under 4 million by 1776 and to around 250,000 by 1890. Jeez, that's crazy. That's crazy. But here again, Rabbi Tovia, is he going to say that? Is he going to show you guys? And before we just go on to the next topic, let's look something up real quick. Did the Catholic Church continue Inquisition in America? The Inquisition in the Americas was a powerful arm of Catholic Church aimed to maintain religious orthodoxy. It targeted heretic, crypto-Jews, and conversos, using torture and confiscations to enforce compliance. Alright, let's see. Inquisition. Okay, so we read that up there. Okay, Inquisition also expanded to other European countries, resulting in the Spanish Inquisition and the Portuguese Inquisition. The Spanish and Portuguese Inquisition often focused on the new Christians or conversos, former Jews who converted to Christianity to avoid anti-Semitic regulations and persecution. Spain and Portugal also operated inquisitorial courts not only in Europe but also through their empires. The Joa Inquisition, the Peruvian Inquisition, the Mexican Inquisition, among others. Inquisitions conducted in the Papal States were known as the Roman Inquisition. The scope of the Inquisitions grew significantly in response to the Protestant Reformation of the Catholic Counter-Reformation. In 1542, a putative governing institution, the Supreme Sacred Congregation of the Roman and Universal Inquisition, was created. With the exception of the Papal States, ecclesiastical Inquisition courts were abolished in the early 19th century after the Napoleonic Wars in Europe and the Spanish-American Wars of Independence in the Americas. So it's it's a large group, okay guys, it's a large group of people that the church attacked, and I'm speaking about the Catholic Church attacked. Among those groups, the most prominent were the Jews and the Muslims, right? That's when we had the Crusades, that's when we had all of these different attacks on different denominations, different beliefs. Which now I'll have to get into that topic. So let me get into that topic now. In our church, we often read prophecy about this, and we consider this to be declared here in the book of Revelation chapter 12 and other places too. But here is we read, let me read this whole thing to you so you guys could understand what I'm talking about. Now war arose in heaven, Michael and his angels fighting against the dragon, and the dragon and his angels fought back, but he was defeated, and there was no longer any place for them in heaven. And the great dragon was thrown down, the ancient serpent who was called the devil and Satan, the deceiver of the whole world. He was thrown down to the earth, and his angels were thrown down with it. And I heard a loud voice in heaven saying, Now the salvation and the power of the kingdom of our God and the authority of his Christ have come. For the accuser of our brothers has been thrown down, who accuses them day and night before our God. And they have conquered him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony, for they loved not their lives even unto death. Therefore rejoice, O heavens, and you who dwell in them. But woe to you, O earth and sea, for the devil has come down to you in great wrath, because he knows that his time is short. And when the dragon saw that he had been thrown down to the earth, listen carefully, he pursued the women who had given birth to the male child. Who is that? Israel. But not only that, not only was Israel, did Israel keep its identity as a bloodline. Let's see what happened. But the woman was given the two wings of the great eagle, so that she might fly from the serpent into the wilderness, to the place where she is to be nourished for a time and times and half a time. Throughout this time, guys, the church, the true church, not the Roman Catholic Church, not the Orthodox Church, the true church has been spread out throughout the whole world to be protected. It says here, and the serpent poured water like a river out of his mouth after the woman to sweep her away with a flood. The serpent spewed out a river out of its mouth to sweep the woman as like with a flood, right? That's what we're talking about here, guys. We're talking about the serpent attacking those true believers, those who wanted to be faithful to God. But the earth came up to the help of the woman, and the earth opened its mouth and swallowed the river that the dragon had poured from its mouth. And here we have the nations seeing that is the injustice and standing up for the woman. Then the dragon became furious with the woman and went off to make war on the rest of her offspring, on those who keep the commandments of God, who keep Torah, and hold to the testimony of Jesus. And he stood on the sea of the shore. And he stood on the sand of the sea. So, yes, Rabbi Tovia, not only was the Jewish community attacked, so were Christians, so were true Christians, so were other religions, Muslims as well. I don't think you mentioned any of that, did you? Give me 1 second, guys. I have to come back, guys.